The best 60 minutes of your day, the Bryan Bulaga Homer Hour. Uh, I probably shouldn't mention this because Jason Wilde is on assignment, and I'm afraid people will leave because the show's at the best when you two are talking. But gives me a chance to ask more of my questions. Good evening. I'll be nice to you.
Good evening. How we doing?
Well, I mean, we're also good. I get to talk Packer football with you. I've decided with the segments, I should always start with giving the host an opportunity. If there's just something you feel like you want to say, it can be about anything. If there isn't anything, that's fine because I've got a million questions. But by this time in the week, it might be that there's something that you think is either most important or you'd like to know. And again, usually like injury, so I'm sorry Jason's not there, but you can still address something if there is something. If not, I'm ready.
Yeah, no, I mean, the one thing that I really like the rhetoric that's kind of coming out of the building right now. It seems like the messaging is really good. Early on in the week, it seemed like they were talking like they circled this game because they got knocked out of the playoffs by the 49ers, and it was something they were really looking forward to. And then as the week kind of moved on, the 49ers are struggling a little bit. But at the same time, the rhetoric is that they're not taking the 49ers for granted. Like they're not overlooking them. They know how dangerous this football team is, and they're going to have to play a really good game to beat the 49ers. And that's a great mentality to have because I truly believe that. I think the 49ers are a dangerous team. They've been underperforming. I think that's no secret to anybody right now. But at the same time, we all know the weapons that they have. They can get hot at any time. And the way Green Bay at times has been up and down this season, as we saw last week, they're vulnerable to, getting got potentially. And we don't, if you're on that team, you don't want to be in that situation where you let off the gas a little bit and then a team like San Francisco comes in and surprises you. So I like the messaging that's coming out. They're all business. They're not overlooking this team, even though that San Francisco looked a little off. It's all steam ahead, and I like that approach. That's a really good approach.
I want to go back to Chicago because I have to change and admit I was wrong because I said the defense did well, and I thought a lot of it was that Caleb Williams just played at a level that he hasn't, and that if he does play at that level, but the reality is when the game was on the line, the defense failed terribly. The amount of huge gains after they got like third and 16 or whatever would be remembered as not fourth and 26, but horrific given the struggles of that Bears offense. And in reality, that's all forgotten because he missed the field goal. But it shouldn't be forgotten because while the defense did force the Bears to punt, allowing the Packers to take the lead with a touchdown, they got, I mean, we'd still be talking. How
Hmm.
much confidence can you have in that defense given what they let happen, or how does that happen? And we're not only because they made the field goal. And I'll admit that's on me. We that would have been my first question today, right? How can you trust this defense given what they did with the game on the line against the Bears? And that's all forgotten because of the field goal miss, but probably shouldn't be because that's the reality of what the defense was. So,
Yeah, yeah.
my
No, you're you're right. I mean, it's easy to overlook it because the game was won, and it's easy to overlook it as well because only 20 points were allowed, right? So
right.
it's kind of covered up a little bit. But what's not covered up, which you kind of hit on, is uh is the third down stat, right? That third down statistic for the Bears was just unbelievable. I think they were like 12 or 6 or some ungodly number.
And all I know is they had third and 19.
Yes.
They get 16 yards, and they still have to make it on fourth down. You still have a second chance. On fourth down, they get 21 yards.
Yes, exactly. Like, and in that situation, and it gives me a little PTSD of reminders of last year. The coverage just got soft. Like we got the third and 19, and the coverage got soft. They backed off a little bit, and they're able to complete that pass, which, I mean, it was a good throw. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like that was a good throw by Caleb Williams. I mean, I'll give him that for sure. But I just don't like the soft coverage in third and long, right? Like I just don't like it. I like disrupting the timing, But then this goes back, Homer, to what we were talking about when you lose key DBs like Jair throughout the game, D coordinators are a little more hesitant to play that type of coverage, and they don't want to press, and they want to give guys a little more room to operate. And with that, you let the wide receivers get clean releases. They get downfield. They can use these bigger wide receivers, the body, and get position, which they did, and they complete the 16-yard pass, and then the 21-yard gain on fourth down. I mean, I don't even know. They needed 3 yards and they got 21.
Yeah.
Like it just.
Oh, and I forgot, because then with 53 seconds left, it's 1st and 10, and they get 12 yards.
Yep.
So even after those two, you could have stopped them, and that would have made the field goal even longer. So 16 from 3rd and 19 on their own 20 with 2 minutes to go. They get to 1st and 10 at the Packer 30 with 35 seconds to go.
Yeah, it was
That's horrific.
Yeah, it's just, and especially the way that started off, 2 sacks back to back, and it looked like, oh my gosh, like this is the D line's moment. And then that 3rd down completion, they had him dead to rights and they couldn't get him to the ground. And Caleb Williams gets out of it, completes that pass, and then you're thinking, here we go, here it is. Like this is where it kind of, you're thinking like this is where this kid kind of makes a stamp, and he completes the next one, and then the pass rush just kind of disappeared. And then they made their move a little bit more down the field, and obviously history is what it is. The field goal gets blocked, but I'm kind of in your camp that you can't forget about what kind of happened in that second half of that game with the defense, and especially in the secondary of what happened, right? I'm all in on the points allowed. You and I talk about that all the time. That's a very important statistic. I'm all in on that, and I know Green Bay's doing well with that, and they're doing well with the turnover margin on their side of the ball. Offensively, we're not where we need to be on the turnover margin at all. But there's something to be said about that 3rd down conversion rate and what's happening in these gotta have it situations. And do I still have confidence in the defense? I do. I do still have confidence in the defense, but there's going to be tougher challenges than what Chicago gives us, right? There's going to be more difficult opponents. And I do believe the 49ers pose a bigger threat and challenge than what the Chicago Bears do. I mean, as bad as the 49ers are playing compared to what their normal standard is, I think it's better than the Chicago Bears, right? And I don't know what Green Bay's health's going to be defensively going into the week. I don't know if Jair's. I mean, if I have to take a guess, he's not going to play. I don't know, but if I have to take a guess, he's not going to play. If he can't finish a game, most likely he's not going to be in there. So now you're going down a guy with all these electric wide receivers and running backs and things like that. So the secondary is going to be tested again, and they got big receivers in San Francisco. So I'm this is going to be an interesting matchup in the secondary for our defense, and it's not an easy matchup. But do I have confidence? Yeah, I do. I still have confidence in them. But these things, like these gotta have it situations, they got to start tightening up a little bit. Like they really do. They got to tighten up a little bit, and what it takes to do that, I'm not a defensive coach. I don't know what it takes to do that. Maybe tighter coverage, a little more press. I don't know, but
So did you ever play offense or defenses where you felt this could happen? Can you tell during the week and somebody says, hey, they're bad on 3rd downs, or these things tend to get open, or is that not the focus of an offensive line?
Well, it's not really the focus of the O-line. I mean, you get all the stats in the beginning of the week on Wednesday and Thursday. You start getting the breakdown of the defense and kind of their weaknesses. So you start getting their 3rd down numbers, their short yardage, their red zone numbers. So you start to get an idea of kind of where they feel like they're weak, because then you start to get their pressures where they feel like they can't, where they're a little susceptible. They can't rush the passer in this down and distance. They feel like they need to protect their DBs in this down and distance. So you get a picture of what they like to do on Wednesday and Thursday. So in your mind as an O-lineman, you're like, all right, if we're in 3rd and 3 to 6, they like to bring pressure because they don't count on their DBs to hold up in a route tree in that area. So they're going to bring pressure to try to get the ball out of the QB's hands. So we know if we hold up a little bit, someone's going to be open. So as a lineman, you're not really thinking about like, you know, hey, what's their conversion rate on third down? It's more what pressure packages and where are they weak and what do they try to do to get the offenses off the field on third down and in certain situations. Because for us, it's all situational, right? I think that the wide receivers, the quarterback, they look at those things a lot more percentages, and obviously the coaches, they look at more percentages. We look at things as situations, right? And because that's all our thing, that's all we do is we play the situation. A lot of these other guys, they play the percentages and they, because that's what coverages are, right? Like when these quarterbacks and receivers are making adjustments at the line and the plays are coming in, they're playing the percentages of what defenses play in certain zones and down and distances. Are they 50% man in certain, like, and so there's a lot
All
of
right, but are
math
there
that
times
goes
you're
into it.
like you have 3rd and 15 against a certain team and you go, yeah, we can do this? Or with Aaron Rodgers, was it we can do anything? But or is it
Um,
is a 3rd and 15 the same every game you play in a season, or does it differ based on the team you're playing?
well, I'll put it this way. When you know you have two downs on 3rd and 15, it makes things a lot easier, right? Like when you know you got two downs to get 15 yards, yes, it opens up a lot. Like, yes, you feel a lot better about it, right? And when you have Aaron Rodgers and you got two downs to get 15 yards, yeah, you feel a lot better about it, right? There's really there's no play caller that feels good about 3rd and 15 with one down to get it. Like there's
Against any team.
against any team. Like there
Okay.
shouldn't it shouldn't be happening, right? You shouldn't be giving that up. But you got two downs to get 15 yards with today's NFL. That's not that hard of an ask to get. Obviously, the pass rush is one thing that's unpredictable, and unfortunately for Green Bay, that's been our struggle right now is rushing the passer. So, offenses and offensive coordinators, they're going to take more gambles pushing routes down the field against our pass rush because they feel like their offensive line can hold up against our guys. So that's a negative for our DBs because the whole way this system works is the front four create all the pressure in 2.5 seconds so that it takes care of our secondary. Well, that's not happening. And our secondary is having to hold up a little bit too long. And when that happens, well, you see the 3rd and 19 get completed for fifth. Like, so there's breakdowns in a couple different areas that, well, first year coordinator, first year defense being installed, you're seeing some of the problems that they're going to address as his tenure goes on. And there's no easy fix right now. It's just working through those to try to patch them as we go through it.
All right, I want to get to Jair Alexander. We're going to do that in the next segment. Do want to mention about free because I love free. Robert Hack Diamonds, they got free. 2-carat total weight diamond studs free when you mention ESPN and purchase $2,000 or more of in-stock jewelry. Again, mention ESPN, purchase at least 2,000 of in-stock jewelry. You'll receive a free pair of 2-carat total weight diamond studs. If you're listening to me in the past, you know what that's worth. Robert Hack Diamonds can get any size, shape, or clarity in natural lab-grown diamonds. They got it all figured out. Ask them questions about anything. You can go anywhere because in the end, you go to Robert Hack Diamonds. I know where you're going to buy Robert Hack Diamonds. Greenfield and Brookfield, again, spend at least $2,000 on in-stock jewelry. You get 2-carat diamond studs free as long as you mention ESPN. They also do repair services, cash for your old gold. RobertHackDiamonds.com. RobertHackDiamonds.com. Visit them in Brookfield or in Greenfield. And love talking about Fisco, so you're like me. You need an auto body place, everybody does. You got one forever. Your kids got one forever. Fisco Auto Body on Forest Home in Franklin. On Forest Home in Franklin. Don't mention that enough. Family business, owned since 1931. It's not what they do, it's who they are. So by the time they're doing it for you, they've been doing it so many years, they got it all figured out. And yes, I tell you about them because here's how it works. The people that listen go there. They love Fisco. They thank Fisco. And then eventually they go, geez, Homer, way to go. Yes, helped my reputation. Not the top of the list, but it's close. Fisco, 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 to remember the name. The Bryan Bulaga Homer Hour next. Jair Alexander. Second quarter with Bryan Bulaga, excuse me, should have the name right. Bryan Bulaga's Homer Hour. And yes, I want to talk about Jair Alexander. And as a teammate, how do you assess, or do you never get into it, how hurt players are and to what degree they're willing to play? Do they have to be 100%? Does the coordinator decide that? And does it depend on how good the player is? Jai Alexander, he played, was ready to play. And then, as Jason Woolley said, he played like 10 plays and then he couldn't play anymore. And now the question is legitimate. So do you play him? But then if he can't play, then have you prepared the other people? Enough me talking about it. As you have observed it, what's your first thought, Bryan?
Yeah, I mean, and this is a difficult situation, right? I mean, especially for teammates around him, right? Especially the guys backing him up
I
because
don't
they're
know.
in
I'm asking you. Is it?
yeah. No, it's a tough spot for the guys, especially the guys backing them up, because they don't know if they're up or down in a given week.
All
It's
right.
tough being,
I'm a backup. All right. I'll be the backup. I got to be ready every week because
yeah,
regardless of who it is, this guy, he misses somebody, Jason, how many games he's missed. So, I mean, I can't force them to give me prep.
no,
And
no,
you can tell me how important that is. But I'm telling you this, I expect to play.
yeah, you got to be ready to go. You
All
just
right.
you
Okay.
just you just have to mentally think I'm playing. You have to prepare as a starter. But I will say
Which is
this,
what you would do, right? If you were in that
yeah,
situation, you don't have to answer any questions about Jair. You don't have to make any judgments. You just know I better be ready because the chances are really good I'm going to play, right?
yeah,
Okay.
there's a good chance you could start the game. You don't know if he's going to be ready to go or not. But I'll say this as if I was in the locker room as a veteran player, knowing, especially myself, knowing Jair and been around him, being a teammate of him, and getting to talk to him last year as well, when I went back for the game against the Chargers and being able to speak to him, I think he is a true professional. I really believe that, and I speak very highly about him. So I truly believe, and this is me personally speaking. This isn't me talking to anyone in the locker room about him or talking to anybody in the organization about him. This is just me. I think if he can't go, that's him being truthfully honest that he can't go, and there's something going on in his knee that he just can't play. Because I do think he's a professional. I think he's a hell of a competitor too. Um, and I've been in a situation like he's been in, probably not as much in and out of a lineup as he has been. Normally, if I was out, I'd miss the 2 or 3 games or whatever it was. I'd be back in, and that's how it would go. But I've been in an injury situation like that where it just seems like nothing could go your way, and I understand it. And it's a bad place to be. It's mentally draining. You have to answer a lot of questions about it. He's a highly respected guy in the locker room. There's a lot that's expected of him in that locker room. He's a very highly paid guy in that locker room. So with that comes a lot of responsibility. And when you're not able to play, that's a lot of pressure put on you. And I feel for him because not just from a personal standpoint, but I know how badly he wants to be on the field helping his team. So I don't think there's any guy in the locker room. Again, I don't know this, but I just would have to assume this. I don't think there's any guy in the locker room that looks at him and goes, I don't think there's nothing wrong with him. He needs to play. I don't think there's any guy that looks at him like that. I think everyone knows that he's going through something. He's not right. He's trying to push through it, and that's just the issue right now. And I can't say. I mean, I don't know what's going on with his body. I have no idea, right? It's reported as a knee. That's what we have to assume. I don't know what's going inside that joint, but whatever it is, I have to take it for what it's worth and assume that it's not allowing him to play. And I got to take it for what it's worth.
Now we get to Jair. Uh, everybody, I'm on the team. I want him to play as much as he can play. I want him to try to play. If he tries to play and he can't play, then we're going to replace him. And I think he's probably smart enough to know. I mean, I will defer to you that when you are potentially hurting the team, right? If
Yes.
you can't, I don't know what percentage that is, but he's, you would know it when you played. And then you tell your coaches, this is where we're at. And this is and then they decide how much you play, right? I get confused about the how this seems complex because it doesn't and shouldn't be,
Yeah.
is
Well,
it?
see, to
Unless
me
they
it's
think he could play, they think he should play, and he's not playing. And at some point, you have to believe in the player, or
yeah.
I don't know.
To me
You
it's
take it from there.
Yeah, to me it's not complex because for us offensive linemen, we play every snap. There's no such thing as rotating in and out and being on a pitch count. Like I don't know what that means, right? So if you're in,
But what if
you're
you tried to play and you were hurt, and then after a few plays, you couldn't play at a level you thought that would help the team? That never happened.
no, if you're in, you're in. You're gutting it through unless you get hurt.
So
Like that's just the way it goes. Like
then you wouldn't have started knowing that. Then that has to make a decision for you on whether you can play, right? You know, if you go out and play, you got to play the whole game. So if
yeah,
you don't think you can play the whole game, I mean, I don't know how you decide that. I feel like I can play half the game, and yet I still got to play because they're going to expect me to play the whole game. All right, what's your
yeah.
thought pattern on this? Now I am confused.
No, that's exact. I went in, if I was injured and I was suiting up to play, my expectation was I'm telling the coaching staff and I'm telling my guys that I'm gonna play. I am staying out here. I am
The whole
healthy
game.
enough. Yeah, I am healthy enough to take every single snap.
So
Um,
you're never worried to where I can probably play a half or something could happen and then I couldn't. That never occurred.
well, I sure I could get rolled into or something else could happen and re-aggravate an injury. Yeah, that's
Right.
always that's always a concern, or something happens. But like the current injury that you have, like no, like if you're going out there, you're telling everyone that you're good enough to go. I always looked at it. I needed to be around 65 to 70% to go out there and play. Like if I'm at 65 to 70%,
All right.
I'm I'm okay to go out there and play and not hurt the team,
All right.
right?
Explain what 65 or 70% means.
So
That
so it's hard to explain like in in terms of like what you're able to do. It's it's you're clearly not at full strength. It's you're far from it. But what you're able to do is still function in a manner that protects you're able to protect yourself, you're able to protect the guy next to you, and
all
most
right. How many
important,
times might you get beaten that you normally wouldn't get beaten because you're only 65 or 70%?
probably a handful more. But with that, the coaching staff also knows that you're
Oh,
going through it. So they will also build in more things knowing that you're going through it and you're pushing through it. So they'll build in a little more protection for you, and so will your guy next to you. The guard will know it, the center will know it, the quarterback will know it. So this is a team thing, right? They understand that a guy's going through it a little bit. He needs a little extra help throughout the game. We'll take care of him. Like, yeah, no, you can't take care of him every single snap, but we know in certain situations, hey, he's not 100%. We need to help him out a little bit, and we were very fortunate that we had guys that understood that. In my time there, so if something was going on, guys would take care of each other, and um, that you would maybe get beat a little more than what would normally happen, but not to the point that you were getting the quarterback
so they
drilled or
would know
things
that
like that.
about Jair if he's playing. They might adjust a little bit.
Yeah, they
Okay.
potentially would change up coverages for him a little bit, or maybe give him a little more safety help or something like that, potentially based on what the coverage was, or what they were wanting to do. The thing that I don't know with his injury, right? He came into it with a knee injury. Did he re-aggravate the injury? Was it because he warmed up, right? He warmed up in the game. He went through warm-ups. It seemed okay. Did he get hit? Did he tweak it? Like what
All right.
happened? I don't think anyone knows. He hasn't answered it. So like I just have to assume a re-aggravation of the injury happened within the first quarter or whatever it may be, which allowed him to not continue on. Like that's the
Yeah.
only because like I can't imagine he went out there and went through how many plays and just goes, it's no good anymore. Like that can't like I can't imagine that would be the case.
All right. The Brian Bulaga Homer Hour. I got a couple other questions about Jair Alexander, but it's going to have to wait till the third quarter. Do you have a car, boat, ATV, or motorcycle taking up space in storage or your garage? Consider donating it to Rawhide Youth Services, co-founded in 1965 by Bart and Cherry Starr. And yes, the car that he won as MVP of the Super Bowl, it's there, and that started the concept of vehicle donations. Rawhide is a faith-based nonprofit that helps thousands of youth every year, many right here in Milwaukee, overcome trauma, suicidal thoughts, and live better lives. They need vehicle donations. So, yes, you could donate a vehicle. But I want to emphasize they are experts at selling these vehicles. So, if you want to help Rawhide, you could buy one of the vehicles because they're dramatically good, great prices, great vehicles. And if you go on eBay, they get it both ways. So, Rawhide Youth Services, visit rawhide.com/donate and learn how you can help today, either giving them a car or buying one of their cars on eBay or boats. They're huge on boats. All right, 38 seconds every day. Homer, not again. Yep. 38, not seconds, but minutes. 38 minutes south of Franklin. That's American Place Casino. I used to say just a half hour, and somebody said, Homer, so, oh, fine. You want to know specifically? 38 minutes south of Franklin, American Place Casino, located in Lake County, Illinois. Great table games, great slot machines, great sports book, great food, latest promotions at AmericanPlaceCasino.com, but somebody else emphasizes that. I'm Mr. 38 Minutes. American Place Casino, just a half hour south of Franklin, or if you're specific, 38 minutes. Third quarter, another question or two about Jair Alexander. And also the whole teammates part of it and San Francisco. Yeah, they've crushed you in the playoffs. This is regular season. Is it different? Those things are next. Third quarter with Bryan Bulaga, the Bryan Bulaga Homer Hour. And the last, our discussion about Jair Alexander in terms of this is not what's going on now, but Jason Woolley gave the number. He's missed a ton of games in the last 40, like 23. Again, as a teammate, do you view a player as injury prone? At some point, I would assume. We don't know. He plays some. It's not a direction of him or his character, but a reality of how many games a player has missed. How do teammates, coaches, I know to them being available is the most important thing, so it drives them crazy. But what's the reality of assessing teammates or players who just miss a lot of games?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think especially, I think coaches and teammates I mean, those two groups of individuals look at it way differently, right? I mean, yes, coaches and players are close, but they are two separate branches of this thing, right? Like the players are together and the coaching staff are together. And yes, they mingle to get a common
So without
job done
mentioning
here.
name, did you ever doubt a player, a teammate, as far as, I don't know, wouldn't play hurt, or I don't know how to analyze it?
Um, there, I don't ever recall ever thinking a guy wouldn't play because something was wrong with him, right? Like I always knew that, and this is my true belief, right? Like all the guys that I've ever played with, this is in Green Bay and in LA, like, and because I was around good guys in LA too, regardless of what I think of what goes on out there. Uh, all the guys that I've played with, I always felt that if they were good enough to play, they would do it. They would never sit out just because they weren't a
Or a
hundred
contract?
percent. Yeah, like I always felt that if they thought they were good enough to play, and what that percentage is different for every guy. But I never thought someone was like, I need to be 100% to play. Because there's really, like you and I have talked about, there's no such thing as 100% in the NFL once you get past a certain point. There's no such thing. So that's a unrealistic look at things. So I've never seen or I've never experienced a guy going, my knee's pretty sore. I mean, I can go, but I'd rather not risk it this week. I'd rather just like I've never experienced that. I've never seen that. Um, so I just professionals are professionals, man, and they want to compete. They want to
So I would
play.
assume you'd feel sorry for those guys. I think injury is the most unfair thing in sport. There's nothing. If you're hurt, you're hurt. So would that be the more of the emotion where you feel badly for players knowing how good they might be, and some are
Yes.
just hurt more often. They just
Well,
are.
yeah, 100%. And that is how I feel about it. Because, I mean, and that's how I feel about, um, like, what's kind of going on with Jair right now. I feel bad for him because I know how good he is. I know how good he can be. And I know how valuable he is. And when these things continue to pop up, um, it stinks. And listen, I get it. Like, people, you can call him injury prone because he's continuing to have things pop up, and like, hey, it's fair if you want to say that. That's not a big deal. Like, I'm sure more than enough people called me that, and that's fair too. I get it. It's okay. Like, I'm a big boy. I can handle it. But there's nobody that is more disappointed about it and more down on themselves about it than the guy that's actually getting hurt. It's not like they're sitting in the locker room smiling about it and they're happy about it. Like, they want to be out there, they want to contribute, they want to compete, they want to be part of the success that the team is having. They want to contribute to that. And when they're not able to, man, it rips you up inside. It really does. Like, it is a bad feeling, seeing your team go out there, win games, have success, and you're standing there watching it. It does hurt. So, like, that's why, to me, I've never seen guys like not want to go out there and play.
So when you hear people say that, you just shake your head and go, you just don't get it, right? I mean, you're
Yeah.
not getting into debate, but that's what crosses your mind. Now we get to the tougher part, I think. Coaches.
Hmm.
All the coaches you've had or been around. It's got to be that some coaches handle injuries better than other coaches. I don't know if it's the old coaches that go like, I don't care if you're on one leg, damn it, get out there. We need you. I don't know, and I assume that's softened a little bit, but I don't know. I would guess this is a little dicey
Yeah.
sometimes. Yes or no?
Yeah.
You're smiling.
Some coaches, little more old school about it. They, uh, they, they feel like guys should push it a little bit more. And they think that, that boundary between injured and hurt, they like to straddle that line. Like, are you hurt or are you injured? And if you're hurt,
Hurt, you
you,
play.
yes, you play. So, like, and they straddle that. And then there's some
And
guys
then
that
they
go,
say, Brian Bulaga, he told me he's never 100% after the first game of the year. And if he's never 100%, then you can
yeah,
play.
yeah. So, like, they go like, hey, are you at least 70%? Are you at least this percent? It's better than this or that. And, so they try to, they try to play positive mind games with you to try to get you to go out there and play. And listen, sometimes it works and guys can push through things, and the coaches do aid in it and they help you out, and they bring really good positive vibes mentally for guys that they can go out there and play. Like, I've seen it. Like, it works. I will say this, like, James Campen, my O-line coach, when there'd be times where I'd be banged up throughout a week. I might have played the whole game week 4, but my knee was, I had to get it drained and it was sore and I had to miss time. He'd talk to me every meeting or every, between practices, and the mental, positivity that he would bring, and just like the good vibes, like, it was incredible. You thought you could do anything because he would just, that positive reinforcement that he would constantly give you, like, oh, you're going to be good. Like, don't worry about it. You're going to be great. Like, everything's going to be fine. This is going to feel great by tomorrow. Like, you're going to, like, you won't even, like, and it was, and, like,
So
you know what I
at
mean?
what point, I love this, at what point do you go, yeah, 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 I know this. You've done this before. I know this game.
Yeah,
Or do you
probably
just
when,
smile and take it?
yeah, I think, because at the
You
same
could be
time,
short a leg, and he'd probably tell you the same thing, right? It's Monday.
most,
By Friday, come on, we'll have it down. You can just hop and go ahead.
yeah, I mean, I think in a way it was also him calming himself down because the coaches stress about it more than the players. The coaches stay up late at night worrying about certain things more than the players. So it's a way of them calming themselves down too. But you go along with it because it's all part of kind of the build up throughout a week, especially if you're injured, of getting your mind and body prepared to go play. And It's the interaction you have with the coaches and then with your teammates, because you have the same conversation with your teammates, especially with me, with with the guys on the line. They're asking you throughout the day, throughout the week, you think you're going to be ready to go, like how you feel like, and the quarterback asks you, and the running backs ask you, like, so these are conversations that you're having with everyone all the way up to pretty much Sunday, and it's all part of the build up to it. So, um, the coaches do a great job with it. I mean, listen, there's some times where, hey, the rehab just you couldn't turn around, and you
Right,
feel
the
like
fact
you,
is, you all know if you want to that if you miss a lot of games, they'll trade you or cut you. There,
yeah,
that's the reality. Right, that's how it plays out. And I just think as a player, that would really irritate me, especially if I assumed that the team or coach knew me. Like you
yeah,
know me now. If you don't know me, then I got to accept everything. But it really comes down to believing that if you don't play at some point, it costs you a job. I mean,
yeah.
everybody lives with that, right?
That's the way this thing goes, man. This league waits for nobody. It waits for nobody, and it really doesn't care who you are. If you're not out there and you're not producing at a high level consistently, it moves on, and that's the way it goes, and it happens to everybody at some point. And it's harsh, it's
And
cruel,
if
and
they move on from Jair, and when they do, if they do, it'll be because he was hurt too often. I mean, right? We know that.
I mean,
It's that simple.
most likely it'll be because of availability. Yeah, because
Yeah,
it's not because of ability,
right.
right?
And
It's not
then
because
they
it's not.
accept a certain availability and how good you are and stuff. But I
Yeah,
mean, it's the only thing that's affected the view of how he is. And I know if you play and you're hurt and you don't play as well, then everybody thinks you're not any good anymore.
correct.
And right?
Yes, yes, exactly. Well, that's the line that you have to straddle as a player, right? If
Yeah.
you go out there and you're hurt and you play bad, like we dealt with it all the time up front, if you're hurt and you give up a sack and you're gutting through it, you're going to hear about it a whole next week. Like this guy's trash. He gave up a sack, but people don't realize that you can barely move laterally because you got something wrong with your knee. But people don't care about that because you were out there playing, but you don't say anything about it because they're right. I suited up, I played, I went out there and did it. But that's the line you kind of have to balance, and it's a tough one. It puts players in a little bit of a bind.
Yeah, and you just I mean, I would say to players, just don't get into a discussion with injuries with the media ever.
No,
You
it's not
know,
worth
I
it. It's
played, I
not worth
didn't
it.
play. Look, say whatever you want. Stay just be as negative as you want. I'm just not going to be a party of the discussion. I'm not sure all players are comfortable living with that. All right, we will get to San Francisco in the regular season in the fourth quarter, but want to mention Dr. Aaron Holtebeck because I went there and it's clear how he does things. He wants to help everybody take care of your vision, whatever your age. So I was at their Brookfield office. They make vision care a top priority with the latest technologies at their state of the art office. And he wants to help more people with more situations. And so though he's been doing it for over 20 years with eye care needs. He recently added to his team the addition of Dr. Nausheen Abbas to take care of other situations well. Don't mess with your vision. Trust the experts from Holtebeck Eye Center in Brookfield near the corner of Calhoun and Capitol. Whatever your age, whatever your situation, they got experts for each thing. Learn more about their services at holtebeck.com. To the 49ers next. The fourth quarter with Bryan Bulaga. And yes, I wanted to talk more about injuries than I did the 49ers because this is regular season. Nobody even knows how the Packers have done against the 49ers in regular season or LaFleur because all you think about are the playoffs. How much does a player view? All right, you're now on the team. They've been tough for the Packers in the postseason. How does that affect games in the regular season?
Yeah, to me, it was never too much. Sure, you think about what happened in the playoffs and how they've had your number a little bit, but I mean, it's not avenging that loss at all, right? Like, I mean, we experienced it a bunch with Seattle, right? Like, we lost to Seattle in the playoffs. We play them in the regular season. We beat them. It didn't make that loss any better or feel any better in the playoff. It didn't do anything. So they aren't equal. We'll just put it that way. The playoff loss is not equal to the regular season, win. We'll just put it that way. Like they don't balance out. Sure, you want to get the win. You always want to get the win in the regular season because it puts you in a good position. Say if you were to see San Francisco again later on in the postseason, um, but I don't think the two have anything in common, like the playoff game and the regular season. And
All right, now in this one, this is the second thing. You, if I'm on the Packers now, I really want to beat them now because you have a chance to keep them out of the playoffs. Not for sure, but it's a factor in this game.
oh yeah,
Then I know one thing: they won't beat us in the playoffs if they're not in the playoffs.
yeah, the way the West is going right now, like there's a chance that San Francisco, after think if they lose this, they could be in fourth place potentially, right?
Right,
Like,
but they can still only be a couple games back. I mean, anything but my question to you is, knowing that you could possibly keep them out of the playoffs, does that add something to it that wouldn't be there, even though it's not a playoff game? Or am I or others inventing something?
uh, I don't know if it's something that is really on the guy's mind. To be dead honest
Okay.
with you, if I'm being totally honest, I don't
That's
think.
what I want.
Yeah, I don't think they're thinking about that much. But like, listen, like I guess every guy's different in what motivates them and what gets them
Yeah,
fired
you're
up for it.
motivated by what they do and how well they do it, and I got to take care of business. And if we all do something, you're like Bill Belichick. You
Yeah,
really are. Just do your job, right? You'd say that to every player. You just do your job. I'll do my job, and I think we'll be okay. I'll take our chances, right? Is that
yeah, yeah. That's the way I always like to look at it. Like if I did my job, you did your job. And if we all go down the line and we all take care of our little piece of the pie, we'll all be fine. Like, and that's the way I truly looked at it. Like, no one try to do more than what they're supposed to do, and obviously don't underperform. But if we all just kind of stay in our lane, do what we're supposed to do, have great communication, things take care of themselves. They really do. And hey, you let the stars be the stars. Let Aaron Rodgers, let Devontae, let Jordy, let Greg, like let all these guys do what they do best and make the plays. Let's just do our little piece of the pie, and let these guys run rampant on defenses. And that's what happened. He's got a lot of success from it, but that's what, like, if this Green Bay team right now, like if they look at this thing offensively and defensively too, if every guy just kind of handles their piece of the pie here, like this thing is going forward and it's going to be really good. You just kind of see right now, like throughout the offense and defense, like a little, just pieces aren't fitting it from time to time, and that's why we
just put
see.
it all together? Just put it all together for one game,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Like that's what I want
But
to
I
see.
think I'm probably as excited because I to all those people who said that Jordan Love was hurt and I thought he was hurt, I now know how hurt he was based on what I saw him against Chicago. That to me was Jordan Love.
Yep.
And anything he didn't show in the previous games tells me how less than 100% he was.
Oh yeah, seeing the way he moved against Chicago and then how he was moving against Detroit and Jacksonville, the guy. I mean, he must have been hurting in a bad way because the way he was stepping up and his pocket movement against Chicago looked like him. Like he looked smooth. He was delivering the ball with a lot of velocity, and he looked comfortable. And to me, that is a very good sign that he is um, moving and feeling a lot better than what he did before the bye week. Because man, he looked very uncomfortable. We'll just put it that he like looked very uncomfortable in that Lions game.
Talking with Bryan Bulaga, we got a few seconds left. So you don't have to give the team, but were there ever games in college or even with the Packers where you thought you had a chance to win, but you said, damn, they're good. Damn, they're really good.
Uh, no, I
Never.
always,
Wow.
I always felt like we had a chance. I always felt like we had a
With your
chance to do it.
quarterback.
Um, there were times that you knew it was a long shot, right? Like going, like it was going to be tough going into San Francisco with those Harbaugh teams and winning a playoff game. You knew going into Seattle, those were going to be tough playoff games to win, but you knew you had a chance, right? You go in there, you play your style, you play hard, you have an opportunity to do it. But you knew
Alex?
we're the underdog for a reason, but you got to go in there and play the game. That's why you do it.
So no game stands out. Like, for example, when Brett Favre is credited with the 6 interceptions against the Rams, I'm like, dude, it doesn't make any difference. They weren't beating that team. He could have thrown zero interceptions. That was the year the Rams were really, really
Yeah,
good. I mean,
very good.
I bet that was probably the way when teams played you in 2011. At
Yeah,
some point, they're going, yeah. I mean, no one's going to say so publicly, but you mentioned you could tell us by how quickly teams gave up. That
yeah,
tells you what they really thought about it. So, yeah,
yep.
there is. You've emphasized this, but I don't care what anybody says. Having that kind of a quarterback changes everything.
Hmm.
Like every game, you're
Yeah,
down 20. I don't know. We can still win.
we can come back. There's a chance. There's always a chance.
Imagine what it's like when you don't have that kind of quarterback.
I
Like
I couldn't
you never
even
lived
I couldn't even imagine having like no positivity, no hope.
it.
I
Right.
couldn't imagine it. I mean, I really
Giant.
couldn't.
Yeah. Or the way the Bears may have felt with Caleb Williams. Yeah, they can you can as much as they say the importance of the quarterback, listening to you, it's probably even more important than what they say. Because quarterbacks are crazy. You don't want to hype them up too much, right? But there's no way to overstate the greatness for every other player when they have the thought that you just always said, right? We
Yeah,
we can win. Well, but I don't you can give me 100 butts.
yeah.
We can win.
Well, when you have a guy that instills that confidence in a team, that makes up for so much more, right? That when you got a guy behind center that makes everyone, not just on the offense but on the defense, feel like they can win, that does so much more for a roster than you can even think about. So like, yes,
And Jordan Love is starting to do that with his teammates.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely he is. I truly believe that.
And I won't I mean I won't be disappointed if the Packers lose, but I'm just looking for a game where you say like they they get it done. And if they do, they'll beat San Francisco. I mean, I think injuries, they just got a lot of things going on that's making it tougher for them right now. Is that a fair
Yeah.
statement?
Yeah, they haven't been playing the way they've normally played. I mean, that's really the best way to put it. They just don't look themselves. And yeah, I'll be disappointed if Green Bay doesn't take care of business at home. I think so. I think that's fair. Like I said with Chicago, there's always a way that you can lose a game. There's always a way. But this is a game that Green Bay, the way their style of play, they should be able to take care of business against San Francisco. They should be able to, but you can't be sloppy against a defense like this, and especially against an offense that can be explosive. They're going to want to run the football. You have to be disciplined and sound. You have to control the line of scrimmage and be disciplined and sound.
All right, I know to everybody, it's not as good when Jason's not on it, but we didn't have Jair, but I tried to be whoever the backup is. I don't even know their names. There are Jairs and not Jairs. Thanks, Brian.
Yep, appreciate it.
Brian Bulaga, the Brian Bulaga Homer Hour. All right.